For living boys, I asked you guys on Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter what changes you would like for Briar to make her better in high elo without making her more broken in low elo. You guys went crazy and came up with over 400 different replies on every medium, which is insane, thank you. And I organized them by Q, W, E, and R, so we'll go through all the Q changes, so on, and then I will rank them. I will be the voice for high elo, you guys were the voice for low and mid elo Briars, and I think that worked very well for us, so let's get right into it. So we have some background footage going for you just to keep the conversation rolling, but for the times that I can simulate the things that you guys want, I'm going to do so. The first big change everyone wants is they want Q to shield break, because sometimes having Serpent's Fang in your inventory makes you not tanky enough to play the game, and then it feels kind of rough. So someone like Rel can Q me right now, and I would lose my shield like this. Whereas for Briar Q doesn't break shields. That could be a pretty decent change. The second big change people want is if they use Q in a defensive way to an ally or an allied ward, they should get some of the cooldown back and not have to suffer this huge 13 to 9 second cooldown where they can't just go back and do max damage to a cam. I actually kind of like this one. I don't think it's really game breaking, gives you something else to do. The third big change people want is an increase in Q's range by default, which works both aggressively and defensively. They go on to add that maybe just having the Q range increase to only happen during Frenzy would work to just dial in on just an aggressive buff without giving so much to the defensive side too. Actually sounds kind of solid. The fourth big change is actually pretty simple. People want to be able to Q turrets. There's no reason I can't drop this leg right on its head. This change works best for lane Briar, where if someone decides to leave lane, they deserve a big punish, and currently Briar kind of lacks with that. The fifth Q change people want is they want Q to be able to AoE stun on a small AoE. So if I were to Q this target, that the second target around him would also get stunned. I think that would be so strong that we would probably have to nerf Briar in so many other ways. I don't know about this one yet. Sixth biggest change people want is they want Q's animation to speed up with attack speed. This is because when you play the higher attack speed builds like Machine Gun Briar or Yuntal, sometimes it feels like a loss of damage to cast Q because of how long it takes to actually do it. The seventh biggest change people want is because Q is coded as an auto attack, it eats up one of your Hail Blades procs. So for example, if I right click this target dummy, you'll see 1, 2, 3 fast autos, right? Now as we wait for this cooldown, you'll notice that if I start with Q, I only get 2 autos that are sped up. And, you know, this could definitely mess up on your burst, where if I Q, 1, 2 autos. One cool thing that does work in its favor is that, you know, you do have Titanic for this, where Titanic can actually give you another Hail Blades proc, if you don't know. So with IW, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 faster autos there, because we don't start with Q, and then you have 3, Titanic giving you another. Fixing this interaction could help a little bit. I don't think it's going to matter in the grand scheme of things, but to have some consistency with that would be pretty cool. Now we've gone over all the Q changes that you guys want, but remember the point of this video is to put emphasis on improving high elo without over improving low elo. So let's do that now. In my opinion, the best way to improve Q would actually be the ally/ward refunding cooldown. That would give me more options for more plays, or make it not so detrimental to hop into random bushes to look for plays and then get out. Second, I would probably say the shield break. I don't think this one would be too crazy for low elo because it implies that low elo knows every other champion and their items and when they're going to have a shield and if it's worth to save the cooldown and make a lot of value out of that. So I think that one could definitely be number 2. And then number 3 would be Q range overall. This one would flat out make Briar good everywhere. And I don't really see a lot of applications where it could be more negative for Briar. So this one seems like it's kind of good in both, which really is like, yeah, it buffs high elo, but it also buffs low elo, which kind of isn't the point. And then Q for turrets would probably be 4th. You know, it would just add me taking plates or helping split or catching someone in side lane a little bit. Whereas lower elo junglers probably don't hit turrets that much. So this one going to 4th. 5th would definitely be speeding up Q animation with attack speed. Although I do think low elo would benefit a lot from this because a lot of the time they're building incorrectly and playing, you know, all attack speed builds so randomly, and then they would get a buff and maybe those things would work. And higher elo Briars don't often build that much attack speed. You know, maybe Yuntal, maybe Machine Gun Briar, which is 3 attack speed items, but overall this seems like a both buff, so it's kind of in this weird spot. I don't even think it's that huge in general, but it would be nice. And then last would be Hail Blades losing a proc if you start a fight with Q. This one, it's just not a lot of people are playing Hail Blades right now. Would it increase the win rate of both? Yes, it would, but I don't think it's so game breaking to have it right there. So this is probably where I'd number it. Let me know what you think. The W changes I can't really simulate because they're not in the game, and these changes are things people want in the game. So I will leave the full image on the bottom right here. But to start with them and to order them just with words, in order, I would say that the top one, W, follow invis better. Have you ever been chasing a Viego and you're right next to him and you lose W? Same thing with Twitch, right? All these invis champs, like, yes, we have R to answer them, but sometimes I'm losing W when I'm right next to them in their range where I can see them, and I only lose vision of them for like 0.1 of a second. So if an increase in the duration of time to not drop W could be improved, then that might work pretty well, especially in a popular jungle matchup that is Viego. Or if Twitch becomes meta AD carry again, this will matter a ton. The next one that I think will help a ton is if you could W and slightly pull towards your cursor. So that's implying that on your cursor, you could pull left just a little bit, just to rear in one direction. And this would try and help you, when someone's stacking or two people are on top of each other, to not miss your W2 here and there. That one seems definitely pretty good to add a little bit of a skill expression where, like, I'm still actively using my mouse. I haven't lost where my mouse is and so on. So that one easily becomes number 2. Number 3 is the last one on the image. W1 is still a dash, right? Dash, frenzy. W2 is bite. And you can queue up W2, and behind that is cancel your W. Now, the problem with this one is, first of all, it takes away Briar's identity, okay? Albeit it would make her very strong. Her identity is to be this inting monster, and for you to have a second way out of W feels like I kind of lose who my girl is. I lose who Briar is because now I'm just, a champ that's trying to move forward, and I have 2 ways to break out of W. That feels kind of OP, but, the idea that you have to gate it behind using my W2, maybe I lose damage uptime because of that, puts that one at 3rd. And the rest of the W ones, I would say, they don't really seem like they're very creative, and I think that they're awesome ideas. I don't think they have a place in current day Briar, but W cooldown refresh was one, so that's the second line. People want to get a refresh of W if they kill with W2, or if they kill during it. You are crazy. This champion is already doing crazy pento, triple kill runarounds already. You're giving me more W2s. That's craziness. W has a double dash where instead of it being, like the last line, W1 dash, W2 bite, W3 cancels W, they want another dash or another hop in a direction to try and choose, like, so if I start my W2, I can then use W3 to dash to get the correct bite target. Interesting idea. Would be broken. Would be insanely broken. Yeah, so that one is crazy. And the last one is that W automatically starts without using its cooldown if ultimate doesn't hit. So the situation would be, I kick ult and it goes flying. The moment that the ult snaps off, where it doesn't exist anymore, it ran out of range, there would be a cast of W that doesn't use my W cooldown to make me run towards whatever near me. I felt like this one was mostly to say, like, if I miss a close quarters ult, then my W still go towards the target that I'm trying to fight, and then I have W again. Again, I think this would be very hard to even just put into the game. It implies like infinite resources or like hard stops from Briar's ult. And I feel like a lot of bad might actually come of this, where like maybe you WQE shot R, realized that R was terrible. Now you have to run straight into them again. And it doesn't feel like high elo would utilize it either to stay true to the video. So overall, very interesting ideas, and I actually think they're very interesting. I just don't see how they apply or fix the problem. But they are kind of cool. Yeah, so I had to include them. They're very cool. We're going to get into the E changes that people want. Let me just say Flash E, Flash E, Flash E. This person, Cabnac, has a video on YouTube when Briar could Flash E, where basically your flash wasn't disabled at the end of it, to where you actually could, if you flashed Briar's face onto an enemy champion, it would work like Flash E. Thank you. It would knock them back. Now, I think this could be insane tech. Thank you, Cavnac, for this. I think this could be insane tech because, well, it lets lower elo Briars mess up while also giving higher payout to them. So the way I see it is, you were a Briar player in low elo. If you tried to pull off Flash E in a bad time, you would miss it, you'd waste your E, you would likely die, and then you wouldn't have Flash for 4 to 5 minutes. I think that's good. I don't think that actually buffs low elo that much to have this insane playmaking thing because it is all or nothing, which kind of to me is how I like to play Briar. I like to be a little all or nothing to it. You know, you got to believe sometimes. So I think this is interesting to have, while also giving high elo players who probably understand the situation more when Flashy could be good. Maybe they show restraint halfway through, just take the loss of the E cooldown. Giving high elo Briars a bigger playmaking tool on this really insane high payout spell could be very good because they would also suffer from if enemy team saw it coming. Like, people see Gragas E flashes coming, people see set W flash coming. I like the layer of gameplay that it adds to high elo to have those things. Briar's E would just turn into the minigame like that. I don't know how realistic it is to put this into the game. Maybe it's breaking the game. But I will say this is one of the things that I actually think would lower low elo win rate if they heard about it, knew about it, would try it, mess it up, not have Flash for the next fight, and actually start losing more games because of it, while also giving a higher payout to high elo. I absolutely love this change. The second change people want is they want E to have a relative cooldown to how much charge you do, to say that if I do use tap E, that I deserve a shorter cooldown because I immediately recognize there's danger, tap E, and then I get to run away and maybe even turn this fight by having a shorter cooldown. I can use E, run into a bush, use E to kill the person that's trying to kill me. Whereas if I do initially fully charge my E, I get the benefit of 4 to 10, max HP healing, and I do get to deal a ton of damage. So this one is very interesting. I would have to be in game with this to really see how good it is. But I can say if you make E's cooldown over match W, then Briar becomes like such a crazy champion that almost never has any int ability where, oh my god, I used second W, now I'm under the turret. It kind of feels like it would take that away, which probably makes her lose a little bit of identity, which I know is probably important for her design. The next one is Chomp reduces E cooldown. So if you do in fact use your W while E is not up, you can use W2 to try and reduce part of the cooldown to get it back. Kind of playing to the degree that this fight is going to second W, and maybe I can go to second E also. Whereas right now, if you W once, take a fight, and then you use E during enemy teams, or rather enemy champions' highest burst window, you likely can't use W2 again because they could just walk you into turret or walk you through the team or whatever it is. Whereas if you're able to at least W2 them, you can reduce that cooldown, and now you're playing a more ping-pong back-and-forth fight. It sounds very strong. I would be careful with this one, but it is pretty interesting. The next one I would say is the visual indicator for E buffering. There are times where you get CC'd, and you start buffering E at the start of it, and then the buffer doesn't hold to the end of the CC, if that makes sense. Whereas, to be honest, skill diff, just buffer E later. But in the moment, you never know how many CCs are going to hit you, and if you've been holding it for too long, it can be tough. So a visual indicator around your screen to say, hey, this one will buffer no matter what. It's something that people want a lot. I don't necessarily think this is very important, but I do think as a quality of life, it could be cool if that buffer is being tracked somewhere to even do, which I don't even think is true. The second to last one is make tap E slow more or longer. Now, if you don't know a tap E, that's where you click the button, right, and you get the very small dragon breath. It does an 80% slow for 0.5 seconds. That is awesome. That is something I try and put people on all the time. It is so important to stop people from running away when you have no CC left, to get your team closer, whatever it takes. I think there's so much that could be added to tap E to genuinely make Briar a better character. Thank you for the follow, House Cat. Yeah, man, it's crazy what you could do. Make it apply 5 bleed stacks. That way, if I tap E, I put 5 stacks on them, they run away. I just gave them more damage running away, while I also can split. That could help high elo a ton. Just give me more, of a trade. Give me more options for a trade. Low elo doesn't use tap E. And even if they did, it might be a grief anyway to not have the cooldown. I think there's so much that can be done with tap E in terms of giving, more passive stacks, a longer slow, or a weaker slow but for longer. I think there's so much to mess with tap E. I think that's where like the future of Briar's going, is that this is probably the place that you could give high elo Briar mains way more, right? So much more by just giving a little bit more skill expression. Hey, I know that tap E is better than full charge here. Well, also, Briar would play the same to low elo Briars, so it's cool. And then last one is E damage reduction is higher in the first half of the E cast. Or another way people phrase this is, if I successfully use my E and get crowd controlled, that I get extra armor and MR or extra damage reduction. Both of those are really cool. So higher flat damage reduction at the start, just like Master EW, it's cool. It exists. It would be a flat buff to everything. It would also help low elo a ton. But I do think there's a lot of skill in if League of Legends could check that I got CC'd during the start of this cast to give me an additional benefit. I think that is such a cool way. It would help certain matchups a ton, like things like Urgot, right? Where if I buffer an E to put Urgot into the wall, the extra benefit that, maybe if I don't put him into the wall this time, I don't take as much damage could be really cool. I like adding that layer of skill where I know that I'm going to catch their CC with my E could be really good. So it feels like E might be the most impactful thing to change just because, there's 2 variations of it, right? There's tap E at full charge. Seems like there's a lot of leeway here. So definitely, if I had to order it, I would say Flash E would probably be the most important. Tap E, slow more or longer, or just have additional benefit would probably be second. And E damage reduction higher in the first half, or if I get CC'd, would be third. E cooldown relative to charge amount would probably be fourth. I think there's a lot of cook to do with that, but I would have to see it. Trump producing E cooldown, I think, would be insane for low elo, so I think that one would not fit the video very much. That just sounds really strong. And then the last one would be visual indicator for E buffer. I don't think it's going to change very much because most of the time you guys are already buffering your E correctly anyway, but it could be more reassuring, sure. Now getting to the R changes, and a lot of it seems like people took a ton of inspiration from other champions, which is like fine, I get it, but I will say most of them sound a bit incredible, where the top one right here, right, AoE burst around Briar like Swaynar. If you hit ultimate, right, you fly in and then you do AoE bursts. I think that's insane. I don't really know how that fits into her lore either, because she didn't really have that aspect in the cinematic. But if you like Swain that much, man, I get it. Swain's cool. Second one is R takedown resets W. So you can W during R. The idea is that when I hit ult and I fly in, it is a decision in my head if I need to use W1, auto W2, to kill this target, and to take the loss of not having W afterwards. This person wants to circumvent that entirely, where to say, the moment I hit R, I can W1, I can W2, and I know that once I kill this target, snap, my W is back. I think that would be insane. That would kind of turn Briar from like what she is now, where it's like playing a rhythm game where you have to like, sync up all your spells in the right time, but also you have to know that you want to even do them, to make her more face roll, just match W 10 times and pray. So I don't really like that one that much. The third one is R gives more stats, or make her auto slow enemy, like apply like a red buff effect, or just give her more lifesteal. I think tweaking the stats of R is probably something that could happen without much win rate changing on either side. I could see how giving her too many stats would definitely make her a demon though. So this one seems like it probably could happen. I do not really like making her auto slow, despite that would make her stronger, and I would love that. You already have so much movement speed. that I kind of feel like if someone's outrunning me, it's because I'm missing wall jumps or I'm not timing my WQs better, and I'm leaving them like time to flash. So I'm not really the biggest fan of that one. Although, again, it would be cool. It would be cool. The one after that is no sound effect till R is shot rather than the moment that you cast. This one I feel like is probably coming soon. I've definitely, I think Riot August, right, creator Briar the GOAT, has talked about this exact thing, where it's like, first of all, it's awesome that he even thinks about like making Briar better. I think a lot of Briar players tend to not like realize that people are trying to make our day better, or rather, people are trying to make Briar a more complete project, a more complete entity, where it's like, yeah, people are definitely taking what we think into consideration and just trying to make Briar feel more complete, and a more complete product definitely will play better and feel better. So I do think this one could definitely happen, and it wouldn't change anything at all. I think it would just be a more feel-good aspect to playing Briar in general. So yeah, that one's good. A lot of people did talk about R's projectile speed. They just want it to be flat out faster. Again, we would have to see what route Riot would go with this, where like R being faster with the current timing of the sound effect, or no sound effect, same speed, same thing basically. I can see like small applications where they're different, but overall, they're practically the same. So they're cool. Make R easier to hit. If R hits and Briar uses W, allow the W to continue with some internal tracker to say that when I R and I hit, if I use W, right, and I'm dashing towards my target, but my teammate kills them, the rest of that W, if it be 4 seconds, would trickle like regular. If there's a champion, it would go to that. If there's a neutral, it would go to that, and so on. I think this would be a coding nightmare. Okay, I think it would be a disgusting coding nightmare. We currently on this patch have Briar killing teammates, right? This would be a coding nightmare. In a perfect world, I think this one could be good, but yeah, this one would be cool. Again, I think the skill of a Briar player is deciding if I need to use my W in general after I hit R. A lot of you guys will see my clips, and some of my best clips are when I hit R and I know I only need to use Q auto Titanic, they die, and then I W towards the next person. That's what I consider to be the skill of a Briar player, is to, us Briar players, man, we have to understand the situation before we're in it. So it's kind of like reinforcing the fun of the champ, is that I did know exactly how much I needed, and that's it. And me getting better at the game is me making the wrong decision and learning that, dang, I did need to use W there. That sucks, and then you keep it going. Again, faster cast time of R. People just, want it to be faster for fast combo. So if you know what fast combo is, when you WQ, W2, R to try and start shooting R during your Q stun. That would help lane Briar a ton, because currently she's one of the champs that just doesn't really have an R in lane, which if you can make it more consistent to hit a 1v1 R, it could help lane Briar a ton. Interesting. The second to last is one of my personal ones that I decided to utilize this for. So I think there's an interesting way that you could redo Briar R, and I don't even think I actually want this, but I think it's interesting to think about, where Briar's R radius starts out small, and then gets bigger based on the amount of distance it travels. So if I do a fast combo like we're saying, right, where I WQ and then I shoot R, that would be a very small circle, but it would shoot at them faster. So it has a very fast startup, right, but a very regular speed slow down as it traverses the map. This would make it feel more like complete as a 1v1 spell, but I don't think that's what Briar's R should be, but I did think it was interesting. To where, yeah, if I'm taking fast combos and I want to point and click someone, cool. Make my R shoot and start very fast like Vex Q. Reverse Vex Q, I guess, because it starts out slow. Yeah, shoot super fast and then slow down, right? Boom! It's like it's like when you're swimming, right? You kick off the wall. That's the fastest you were. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then it can like grow in size, which could like turn into like old Aurelian Soul, where he would just ride down the lane with a giant stun. I thought it was very cool. Plus, I don't think it affects low elo that much, because not a lot of low elo players are shooting 1v1Rs. It's always cross maps, to where like if you hit the cross map, maybe an even bigger circle is a fair reward. So it was worth thinking about. I thought it was at least fun. Maybe not my best cook. And the last one is R grants the extra stats for a small duration even if the ult misses. That's to say that in a situation that I'm either going for a long or short R, right? If I go across map with the R, but I miss, I can choose to start a fight with my increased stats. Or if I shoot a close range R, well, I missed R, but I still have the stats to fight the person that I'm already trying to hit ult and fight. That one probably doesn't ruin the game or anything. I think that could be really good. I do struggle with giving benefit to things like rewarding missing. Don't really logically like that much. But you know, I in terms of like making Briar better, I think that you could do that. So yeah, R changes are definitely interesting. But we can wrap up passive. No one said anything about passive, by the way. So we wrapped up R. No one said anything about passive. A lot of people are pretty happy about it. The only thing I heard is like maybe, you know, because it's not your health regen, maybe give it more healing. People were just saying that the damage is low and the healing's low. Sure. Before we reach the end of this video, I'd like to say that I checked my Reddit one last time and actually found this person, Alex Ritchie here, who decided that now was the time, and luckily perfect timing. And they basically say that Q and W are pretty good. Change your passive. The heal is so bad early, especially in a passive health regen. Just increase it so more sustain lane. We were just saying that, so perfect timing. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know what the comparison is for stuff like this. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like how much healing would be too much for a relative bleed proc? I don't know. Maybe it's worth looking into. I don't know. Third change is also passive. Either give some armor or MR per stack, since her personality is killing. So give her a reward, like a stacking thing, kind of like hubris. I think this would be insanely OP. And yeah, WQ seemed perfect. E, there's a few times it doesn't charge all the way. I don't know if that's to them. But yeah, I liked that that they talked about the healing. That was definitely good. They also go on to say, one big issue I have is ult, kill enemy, die right after. Briar gives bonus stats. The most important IMO should be keeping those stats for a few seconds after. They say, let's say 15 or I don't know. After, your ult target dies. That's actually pretty cool. I like that thought just a little bit. And then there's one more that someone dropped recently. I think it was on Richie's post. So allow me to pull that up. So he made a post shortly after. This person says, alternate way of using ult like Poppy, where if you just hard cast it in place, you just channel the AoE fear. Again, that's like kind of what Urgot has to work to do. That sounds insane. But if I had that, oh, we would be making clips every day. But it's a really cool idea. I like it. I think it's cool. Yeah, in terms of ranking the R ones, because I know I didn't do that. The Swain one would probably be last. It just doesn't feel like Briar to me. R takedown resets W cooldown. I think that would benefit low elo so much that it would probably have to be taken out of the game. So it would probably be 6th. R just giving more stats I think would help both decently. Probably more low elo skewed, so you probably couldn't do that, so that would probably be 5th. No sound effect till it's shot would probably help both a little bit. I think that would just be more of a quality of life. Both would probably do pretty good. Faster projectile, same thing. With our hits and Briar use W, allow the W to continue. I think it would help both. These just sound like flat out buffs. They're like tough to rank in that way. Because like some of them are just like, that is very good for both. That's it. Maybe it would have been easier to have like a helps high elo, helps low elo, helps both category for this. Maybe next time. We're at the end of the video here and I just thought of that. W Willimander for that. Briar, our AoE radius starts small and grows. That would probably just change the champion too much, even though that's my idea. I think that's probably one of the lower ones, probably lower than the other ones, not gonna lie, but it does sound cool. I don't care who you are. And R grants extra stats for a small duration, even if the ult misses. That'll probably just help both. So yeah, not bad. There you have it. That's the compilation of all what the Briar community wanted for their champion. I'm not going to lie, this kind of got away from like, this will strictly be high low, this will strictly be low, because a lot of them were so hypothetical that it's kind of tough to say. But I was happy to have the conversation. I'm happy for anyone to even hear this stream of consciousness at this point. This took about like 6 hours to make, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was at least worth like thinking about, and you guys had a good time with that. But overall, thank you for watching. Have a good one.